Hey guys, everyone. For those who have been like patiently waiting, we had some technical difficulties. I couldn't hear Michelle. She couldn't hear me. We had to get Merle involved, and we finally got it figured out. Praise God. So we are here basically an hour later than when we normally start. I've got to pull up Esther. Let me do that in Blue Letter Bible. Go ahead, introduce yourself, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and uh, thank the Lord for tech support. Um,
Oh
um,
man.
but I I love studying the Bible. I especially love studying about the women of the Bible. Um, I love Esther. I think she's a very um, great role model for us to look up to, and um, I pray for each and every one of you, and I pray that you get something from our study. It seems like I learn something new every time that I open my Bible, especially studying the women. Um, so we've got a lot going on, and I believe that this will help us um, be stronger and know what to do and trying in hard situations, because these ladies, a lot of them went through some really trying times.
Oh yeah, they did. And basically just understanding what uh what Esther was going through, is like maybe just to give a recap. King Hasuerus, had a party. He had 127 provinces, and he held this big party for like over 100 days, and invited all the princes and the noblemen, the who's who basically of that time. And of course, Queen Vashti, she did the same thing, but she had the women with her, whereas the king had all the men. Well, after the king had quite a bit of wine to drink, he wanted to basically show off his queen, and she outright refused him. And of course, that caused shame and embarrassment, like humiliation, to the king. And so he basically stripped her of all of her status, her belongings. She was no longer queen. And so they recommended to the king to basically
And so
hold.
they recommended to the.
Oops. Was that you?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes, John B, you can listen into Girls Night Out. Absolutely, absolutely, bro. Um, but then there was a beauty pageant that was held to find a new queen for the king. And all of the beautiful women uh came and took part of this. There was a lot of ritual things that went on. All of the women had to bathe in myrrh and other spices, just part of the purification process. And Esther, which was a Jewish girl, she was one that got to enter this beauty pageant to find a new queen for the king. Well, how it turned out is he was quite taken with Esther, and scripture says that he loved her more than all the other women, and so she became the queen. But now Mordecai, which was her cousin who had raised her, since her parents were no longer there, he basically told her to keep the fact that she was Jewish a secret, and so she did not tell the king. And Haman then comes along, and one thing leads to another, and he's plotting to have all of the Jews exterminated. And this is a decree that was signed by the king. And of course, at the time, he doesn't know that his new bride, the queen, is actually Jewish. And so Mordecai puts on sackcloth and ashes, goes to the king's gate, which that's like a huge no-no. That's something you are not supposed to do. And is getting word to Queen Esther about what's going to go on. And it was basically going to be a year from the date of the decree, a year or thereabouts, that this slaughter of every Jewish person in all of the provinces that the king had reign over, that all the Jews were going to be killed. And so Mordecai gets word to Esther, and that's basically where we left off. That kind of wraps us up through chapter 3 of the book of Esther. Now, Michelle, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we get into chapter 4?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered all of it. I had wrote down a few little notes, and I think that you covered them all from 1 through 3. And we're on chapter 4, verse 11, right?
Oh, well, let me see here.
Because I had jotted that down last time.
Oh, yeah. Because the first part of 4, it has him renting his clothes and that he's going before the gate. Yes, and so basically, let's see. Verse 11 says, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. So that's basically, now we're ready to pick the story back up, because Mordecai is going to have basically a very stern talking to Esther. So do you want to start in verse 13, Michelle, and read a couple verses, and then we can kind of converse back and forth, and we'll just go from there?
Okay. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer, go gather together all the Jews that is present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Okay. So
yeah.
um basically Mordecai is letting her know, just because you're queen, do not think for 1 minute that you're going to get off scot-free, that somehow you're going to escape extermination. That she, just because she's queen, that she's got some kind of high standing, because a decree is a decree. Even though the king may not wish to kill Esther, when it came time, if she did nothing and just said nothing, and she's watching all of her people die, then he finds out, she's Jewish. He wouldn't have, I don't think he could have even saved her, because it was a king's decree. It was like law. And so he's letting her know that if you hold your peace, if you say nothing and you do nothing, the
it's
Lord,
going to be you too.
It's going to be you too, and that there will be deliverance for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will be destroyed. And he's letting her know, how do you know, Esther, that you haven't been chosen for such a time as this? And so that's going to really get through to her. And so she's very serious, and she asks for all of the Jews that are in Shushan, for everyone to fast for her, not eating or drinking for 3 days and 3 nights. And then she and her maidens will also fast. And that she's going to go into the king, which is not according to the law. She can be put to death. And she says, if I perish, I perish.
Yep, her famous words.
Yep. And how many of us today, when Mordecai said to her, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this, how many of us have taken that same mindset in our own lives? Especially with the way things are going in the nation today, when we feel called to do something very, very hard, and just regular fear is almost gripping us, where we want to do what Esther's first inclination was to just do nothing. How many of us have either said to ourselves or had somebody else tell us, well, maybe you are here for such a time as this?
Yeah, and I've often wondered, in our day-to-day lives, when we face really hard situations, and or maybe something happens to us that is tough to deal with. If the Lord hadn't put us in that situation, just like, is it possible that he put Esther there because this was going to be going on, and he needed her in that position? We don't know what the Lord's plan is, but we know that from reading the Bible that it's his plan and his time, and everything that he does is to better him.
Exactly. And of course, I just me personally, I don't believe in coincidences. And
No.
so her, just being a beautiful Jewish girl, and then things happening the way it happened, and then she gets in this like beauty pageant or contest, to find a new queen. I mean, I just honestly feel that God put her in that time for that, and it's like, how many of us can look at our own lives, and it's like at the time we may not be able to see all of God's providence, reasons for this or that, but then something bad happens, or something bad is starting to happen, And then you see right away why God has you where you're at. And, and it's like the, I'll give an example. It's like, I've been an Uber and Lyft driver for almost 2 years. Next month will be 2 years. And I prayed very specifically for God to close the doors that I wasn't supposed to go to, because I thought I was going to be a travel agent again. But I never would have imagined that I would be an Uber and Lyft driver. Okay, well, now fast forward 2 years. Look at the way the world is. God knew that I needed a job so that I could support my family, and maybe possibly I will be able to keep working and vaccines won't be forced upon me. I don't know. But could God have put me in that position 2 years ago, because he already is in the future? And so it's just like, these are ways that I can see such a time as this in my own life. And I know everyone, even Michelle, you probably have things in your life where that was your such a time as this.
Yeah. And I look back on a lot of things as I've gotten older and thought, well, I know now why he did this. And I know now why. Yeah. So.
All right. I'll go ahead and take the next few. We'll finish out chapter 4. Okay. So Esther's plan to intercede. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Oh, well, I guess we're okay. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. Okay, Esther plans a banquet. So we're in chapter 5 now. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the tip of the scepter. Okay, so everyone had been fasting for 3 days and 3 nights. And so she puts on her royal apparel. I mean, she knew what was required to go before the king. She had to have her royal attire on, her apparel, and standing in the inner court of the king's house, by over against the king's house. Okay, so the king was on his royal throne, and when he saw Esther standing in the court, she immediately obtains favor in his sight, and he holds out the scepter that was in his hand. Okay, now this is what she feared, because see, it was against the law. She couldn't just go, even though he was her husband, she was legitimately the queen. She couldn't just go to him any old time she wanted to. She had to be called to his presence. Things were done in very specific manner and very specific order. And so the fact that she did this, I mean, it took a lot of faith and it took a lot of guts, honestly, because I can just imagine she was probably scared.
Terrified.
I would be. Yeah, I would be. I'd be like, I don't know, am I going to walk out of here alive? And so she drew near and touched the top of the scepter. What are your thoughts about this whole process of what she had to do?
I think that, she is this is brave for her to do this. She is really trusting in the Lord right here. And this king really loves Esther. We've seen that back in the beginning when he first saw her, but I mean, he immediately holds out. It don't hesitate at all. Um, he immediately holds out the golden scepter to Esther, and I think that just shows his love for her because he's not gonna. I don't think we've gotten a hint of his demeanor, um, and he just seems like that protective husband that will not. He's not gonna let anything happen to her. If it's within his will. So, um, I don't think she had to be as afraid as maybe she thought. But it was a rule that this just shows his um, closeness to her and um, trust in her because he well, we'll see. I don't even think, I'm not real sure, but I don't think that he even goes on to scold her about it. You
Well, and,
know,
and and something else. I'm not sure how long they had been married at this point. I mean, it had to have been enough time that him being king and her being queen, she's doing, the queenly things, she's got her maidens and stuff. But just me and just my own thoughts. Obviously, the king had servants and attendants that would have been watching the activity of the queen. If she had been getting out of line, being unruly, doing things that would bring shame upon the king, don't you think he would have been notified, even though he may not have called her to him? He would have been notified of her doings, of her comings and goings and
yeah,
stuff. And so this lets us know that she behaved in such a manner that's it's like the Proverbs 31 wife that
yeah,
nothing she did brought shame upon the king or his name or his kingdom. And so I almost, just kind of thinking about, okay, what would the king have thought? She's got on her royal apparel. She's standing in the inner court of the king's house. I mean, yes, he's there sitting on his throne, but because it sounds like he doesn't summon her all that often, and of course in our Western society world with our marriages, it's hard to think about going any length of time with not having any kind of contact with our husband or our wife. But the fact that things were quite a bit different, he sees her and she's all dressed up. I mean, he knows right away something's wrong. I think he knows something. you know she dresses up and she's coming to him. Obviously he knows that she knows the law, and
yeah,
so he's probably concerned, and that's why, quite possibly why he immediately um gives her favor and holds out the golden scepter to her, and then she touches the golden scepter.
yeah.
So do you want to go start with verse 3?
Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther has said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. You mean,
Okay, so, well, she's okay. She's got I mean, this banquet, what happens in this banquet is going to be like a bombshell, and the king is going to get really, really angry. And so, the Lord had to have been working, impressing
Yeah.
things on her heart. And so she's going before the king, and she's just wanting, the king and Haman to come to her banquet, to come to my party, basically. And so the king is all for it. And what are your thoughts? And then I'll take the next few verses. And when we understand what happens to Haman, we'll all be able to like laugh inside, but he's going to get exactly what he's got coming to him.
Yeah. And um Haman at this point, the king's made Haman his right hand man.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, and so I think she does this with such precision to, and she's calculated and has really thought out how she's going to handle this.
And remember, Haman doesn't know that she's Jewish.
No, he doesn't know.
Even the king doesn't even know that she's Jewish.
No. So she's really given this some thought and come up with a plan to handle the situation, because with Haman being so close to the king and him working with him daily, you know there could be the chance, and as conniving as he is, that he could have convinced the king in private, maybe, not to believe Esther. So it just seems like she's thought this out in every possible situation that could happen.
Yep. And she's going to catch him red-handed. He's going to be absolutely trapped.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the next few verses. Okay. And the king, okay, we're on verse 6. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman. Oh, let's see. Did I? Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, she has two.
Oh, okay. So it's like she's saying it twice, basically.
Yeah.
And to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Okay, so anytime something is repeated twice, that's something you definitely want to make mention. Okay, so Haman is getting quite a bit of a big head, because it talks about Haman's pride. Okay. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh, his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. What are your thoughts? I mean, he's just like really pumping himself up.
Yeah. And I think, Esther's done this in such a way that he's not suspecting anything. He's like, yeah, I'm getting invited to the banquet. I'm just the cat's meow here. I'm
right. And like he's almost taking it as if Esther is giving him praise and honor.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's wonderful, the status that the king has bestowed upon me, but even his wife, even the queen, is doting all over me to the point that she's prepared a feast for me. And the king's coming too. Kind of a
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the king is coming too. And of course, he sees Mordecai. Mordecai doesn't, bow before him. And of course, remember the plot to kill Mordecai is already underway. It's a signed law. It's going to happen in due time. And okay, so start with verse 12.
Okay. I think I think you read 12.
No, I read through
Okay.
11. Yeah.
Okay. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And and tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing so long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting in the king's gate. He despises this man.
Mhm.
Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. You want to stop right there?
Yeah, let's talk about that because um from my understanding, there was a specific date chosen that all the Jews were going to die. It's still quite a ways in the future. Maybe not quite a year down the road, but it's like I think it was like 10 months down the road. Well, now because of his pride of seeing Mordecai in the gate, that he's not standing up or moving for him, he's full of indignation. He's full of rage and hate for him. And so he's talking to his wife, and he, sends for his friends, and he tells the story. And so then the wife and the friends are saying, well, just instead of, waiting for the time when all the Jews are going to be exterminated, just do it now, Mordecai or Haman. Just do it now. Build the gallows 50 cubits high, and tomorrow when you go into the banquet with the king and Esther, um, just ask the king to hang Mordecai now. Is what I'm seeing from this.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to rush it up.
Yeah,
He just
because
can't handle.
he hates Mordecai so much because Mordecai's like taking away his thunder
Yeah.
because he's not,
He's
like groveling at his feet like everybody else is doing.
yeah. And he's probably thinking that if he don't do something with Mordecai, then it may hurt his status. Others may decide to do the same thing. Um, maybe be as he sees Mordecai being rebellious, he may be afraid that he might lose some of his status and others might pick up and do the same thing.
Right. Okay, so we are in chapter 6. I'll go ahead and read the next few verses.
Okay.
On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bethana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. Okay, so the king is remembering that Mordecai, first, I think what didn't he tell Esther, and then Esther relayed the news of the assassination to the king?
Yes.
Okay, and the king said, "What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." Okay, so I'm not sure how much time has passed, but his conscience was bothering him. And so he's recounting what happened about his assassination attempt. Now he finds out that Mordecai's the one that basically saved the king's life, but he did nothing to honor him. I mean, here he's honored Haman and brought Haman to this, really high status, but he's done nothing for Mordecai. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. He's saying, it's kind of like, oh no, I've not done anything for Mordecai, and here he has saved my life, and I've kind of overlooked him. So, and he doesn't realize, I don't think, all this time that Haman is, plotting against Mordecai and the Jewish people.
No, he's not. Okay. I'll read a couple more verses and then you can read some verses. Okay, so with verse 4, and the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, "Behold, Haman standeth in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." Okay, so Haman's already arrived and he's all ready to try to convince the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "To whom would the king delight to do honor more than myself?" I mean, talk about, this is just like Haman thinks, like you said, he's the cat's meow. And but see, the king asks it in such a way that Haman doesn't even think that the king could be talking about anybody else but him.
Yeah.
Because the king says, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?" And Haman's like, well, who's more worthy of honor than I am?
Yeah.
Go ahead and take verse from verse 7.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head, and let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man who the king delighteth in honor. Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and horse, and thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. So, yeah, yeah.
Oh, can you just picture this?
Oh, I can see his ears just steaming because he's mad at this
Oh
point.
yeah, but he has to put on a good front. He has to
Yeah,
put on like his poker face. He cannot let anything show. And this is like, and of course Mordecai, the only thing Mordecai has done is he found out about the assassination plot and immediately told Esther, and then Esther relayed the information to the king. Mordecai has not done anything to glorify himself. He's gone to Esther and told her the plot against the Jews, and had that conversation with Esther. But other than that, he's done nothing. No pride, no, oh, I want to get myself up to this kind of a status or anything like this, when that's actually what Haman has done this whole time. And Haman thinking that he's the only one that the king, it's like the king, let me see if I can say this the right way. Okay, so it's like the king is asking a question. Okay, how should I honor a very special person? It's kind of like if you were wanting to find out something from somebody, because, like, let's say you want to give them a surprise party, but you want to find out information from them without them knowing that you're giving them a party. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, Haman, being prideful as he is, he's telling the king everything he wants. But he has to answer in such a way that he's not sticking his foot in his mouth too. But he never once thinks that this honor, this prestige is going to go to anybody else but him. Then he finds out it's going to Mordecai, and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I can't help but laugh about it because he's just
yeah, me too. I mean, you talk about what goes around comes around,
Yeah.
And I mean, I can understand why the Jewish people, it's Purim. That's the the Jewish feast that they do every year. It's Purim, when they do it in like a play format, where somebody is Haman, somebody's Mordecai, and somebody's Esther, somebody's the king, and they play out this biblical story, and it's just like, I would love to see one of these plays, to see how they play this part out. The person that plays Haman, that it's like he has to eat crow when he has to honor Mordecai like this. And he's steaming, he's just loathing it, but he can't show any disdain in front of the king, or he could lose his life. Okay, so we are in verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. I mean, this is funny. So Mordecai is proclaiming, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. I mean, he's probably has to repeat that over and over and over and over again.
All the way down the street.
And the street, I mean, it could have been several streets long. And I mean, just like this whole procession, and Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened to his house mourning and having his head covered. And I mean, this is just like total shame to him.
Yeah.
And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Now, I don't know about you, Michelle, but verse 13 almost seems like the wife is prophesying his death, because she probably has no idea I mean, obviously she would know, possibly she would know of this decree to exterminate the Jews, but it's almost like she's giving his death sentence. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, she's, it's like a warning. She's like, but thou shalt surely fall before him. I mean, so you've got Haman that has favor with the king. Then you've got Mordecai that's found favor with the king. And I'm sure they know that Mordecai brought Esther to, well, no, I don't know if they know where she came from because it don't say.
Yeah,
And it's
I think
like,
even their family relationship, being cousins, I think that was all kept hidden.
yeah. So, yeah, I think she's saying, this, the king favors this guy too. Um,
Now let me see. We let's finish this out, okay? Because we've got well, you know what? Let's hold the suspense until next time, because we've got how many
there's 10.
is there 10? Okay.
Yeah, there's 10, and chapter 10 is not very long at all. It's
Okay.
just a,
Let's finish up next time. So we'll be ready for chapter 7, 8, 9, and then 10 is a short chapter, because now we're getting into the good stuff as far as when the assassination plot against the Jews is going to be told the king. And we're going to see just how clever Esther was, because how she set up, because remember, she fasted and prayed for 3 days and 3 nights, asked all of the Jews in and around that area where she was to fast and pray too. And so, the Lord absolutely guided her, and everything that she did to prepare this banquet, and how even she requested both Haman and the king. I mean, this was all just precision, precision, precision.
yeah, and there's
It really was.
probably gonna be a lot of people there, and what better way to confront someone? You do it in front of a bunch of people, so it'd be really hard for him to just lie his way
Right,
out
because
of
there would be
everything.
witnesses.
Yeah,
She would have all these witnesses. Yep,
yep.
yep.
So I believe the Lord's just helping her right along, and she has really, He's gave her the insight that she needs to start playing this stuff out perfectly.
Now I'm reading now. I saw your, just to segue just a little bit. What happened with your Facebook group, Michelle? I guess they banned you from posting in your own group.
Yes, and I still do not know why they. I asked for a reason. Um, the day that I noticed it, I actually went to there's a tab on there that you can press to see if you have any violations. I thought it might be there. It said no violations. Thank you for keeping Facebook safe. And I couldn't, I'm banned from any groups. I can't post in any groups. I also can't post in any events or start an event.
Wow.
So until the 23rd, it said, but I did
I
add,
wonder if it has something to do with, the quote unquote inauguration.
I think so. Um, and honestly, um, I've not really been posting a lot on my Facebook page and my regular page, because the only reason that I had stayed on Facebook was because of my group. I didn't want to shut it down because we worked, we went through a lot of women, and we're all the way in the New Testament, studying the woman at the well. And I didn't want to move to another platform, with all of our stuff. It's there for people to look at and refer back to. And, but as far as a reason, I don't have a clue. I did think of something this morning, um, but I don't remember now what it was. But as far as posting a lot of political stuff, I I really haven't been. I've posted a few things, shared a few things, that I've seen. Um, but I don't have a reason. They didn't tell me why.
Well, and you're not the only one, because I'm friends with somebody else and I noticed that they were banned from posting in groups too. Even
Yeah,
their crochet group. They cannot
yeah,
post anything. And this is somebody that, is of the same political affiliation as us, a Christian woman, that from time to time, she sees, something, on, vaccines and stuff like that, she will share it.
yeah,
And I bet you I'm probably joined to some groups, even though I'm just not active in any groups. I just don't have the time. But I bet you they would say I'm banned from posting in anything too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I post stuff quite a lot. If I see something, I'm like, "Yep, truth." I
yeah.
share it.
Well, needless to say, in the last week, if I see something that I want to post, I don't even think twice about it. Um, but I have another friend on Facebook as well that the same thing happened to the same morning. And it's very possible that I might have shared something that she shared, or she shared something that I shared. Um, I look back through, but as far as them giving me an answer, they have not. And I specifically ask, it's showing I have no rule violations. So I'd like to know which rule I violated, and nothing.
And they've never replied back to you.
No.
No. Well,
So,
and they probably won't, and it's really sad. I've also heard that their stocks, like Twitter and Facebook, that their stocks have just absolutely plummeted. They've lost millions of dollars.
yeah.
And
And someone said that a lot of us I've been looking, um, kind of looking on Rumble and Telegram, and I made some accounts a while back. Um, and I watch Dan Bongino News, his podcast a lot. And he did say that Rumble, or what's that, Parlor, is coming back.
yeah,
So
they're going to have to get with international servers.
yeah, but that is in the works, and I'm glad, because Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, even, that's just taking away our speech. We can't have an opinion, and
Right.
that
If
goes
our
to
opinion is not their opinion, then we can't have it. And you're just going to, now that, we have, who it is in the White House now, you're going to see things get worse and worse
yeah,
and worse and worse.
yeah, yeah,
And it's very sad. Many of us have prayed these several months that God would, give us more time. But you know what? We've had almost a year since COVID hit to prepare, get ready.
yeah.
And that's all we
Mhm.
can do. And as long as we can, we're going to continue to do these Bible studies. But at some point, I bet you all Christians will be banned from Facebook,
Yeah,
Twitter. You won't even be able to. I mean, at some point, I probably won't even be able to do any advertising for my Christian albums, because it will be, Christianity will be outlawed. It will be banned. It's coming. It may not be this year,
no,
but I
but
think I think it's coming sooner rather than later. So be
Yeah,
prepared.
because a lot of people through this whole 4 years you've already heard people calling the Bible hate speech and um, all sorts of things. So the idea, they've already thrown it out there. It's
Right.
just, I
They've already
believe,
put the conditioning, the
yeah.
mind control, the suggestion
Hmm.
out there. Yep.
So, um, I feel like we need to read as much as we can and retain as much as we can. And I've really been trying to read a lot. And as I've been getting older, it's hard for me to hold all this stuff in my brain. So
Right.
I,
Right.
I'm trying to, even with the grandbaby, I try to, like, we sat down and she can't read yet, but she can look at her little storybook Bible and tell you um, through God's creation, and she's on Noah right now. So, and she can explain it really well to be tiny. And to me, that is such a blessing that you can, she knows this, and I don't think she'll ever forget it. So we just need to read and retain as much as we can. And if we have regret, that's my regret. When my mind was young and I could remember and memorize things, and I wasn't in my Bible the way that I should have been. Um,
Right.
so, so please, anybody that can, we need to just try to read our Bibles and remember, because I fear there'll be a day that we won't have them, that they'll take
Oh
them
yeah.
away.
And
You
and
know?
and I would say if you don't have a physical Bible yet, get one now while you're still able to purchase them, whether
Yeah,
online or at the store. Get a
this
KJV.
these we've talked about the crown of thorns.
Mm-hmm.
This size is perfect, but these
Right
have
now, you
went
can
up.
still get them at Walmart.
Yeah, you still can, but they have went up, and they're not in the stores at all. It's hard to find a KJV in Walmart. There's a few, but not many. And um, the prices, even on Christian books, they went up a little bit. So that kind of tells me that you really do need to get you a physical copy and make sure that you have one.
Well, and
That I
also download eSword too to
Yeah.
your computer, because there could be a time coming that your online Bibles. Because I like when I'm online, I like to read a Blue Letter Bible, but look at how Parlor got taken down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there a time coming when
They could
Bible
jerk.
platforms, they could just turn it off? Don't
Yep.
think they won't do it, folks, because they will.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I at this point I would not put anything past. Um, if you think they might, you better, make concessions so that you have everything you need so that you can stay in God's word. I know a lot of people that read online now. I've been trying to, every time I catch um, Bibles on sale, and I can buy a couple extra, because I had every time I get a little stock up, it's like somebody comes through and needs one.
mhm.
Last weekend, um, someone was here, and see, it was Sunday, and she's like, "My Bible's gone. I have my grandma's old Bible that I've been reading, but my Bible is gone. I don't know if someone picked it up and took it, or what happened to her Bible, but I had an extra. I like to have an extra couple because you need a Bible, and you come here, you're getting one. I I've always, Merle's the same way. We've just been that way. There's no better thing that you could hand someone is God's word. And
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we try.
And we need it now more than ever. We
Yeah,
really,
we
really
do.
do, everyone.
We sure
We really,
do.
really do. Well, this is probably a good time to stop for now, but you want to be back in 2 weeks because we're going to finish out Esther and we're going to find out just what happens to Haman, what happens to Mordecai, and how God, using Esther as well as Mordecai, delivers the Jewish people. And Satan, ever since the Garden of Eden, um, just time and time again has tried to exterminate the Jewish people. We know he will try to do so again, but God always saves a remnant of the Jewish people. He always, always does. And so if God, making a promise all the way back at the beginning of time, has kept his promises, kept his word, you can be assured that when you put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, that you are saved, sealed eternally for all eternity, that you will never lose your salvation. But it is your choice. It is your free will. You just need to accept what Jesus did on the cross for you. And so mine and Michelle's hope is always that that if there's anyone listening that has never put their faith and trust in Jesus Christ, that you will do so today, because no one is guaranteed tomorrow. None of us know. Quite a few times I wake up in the morning and I ask the Lord, I'm like, because I know, unless I'm still alive when the Lord returns and I don't physically die, I know one of these days I won't wake up on this earth anymore. I'll be waking up in heaven,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we just don't know. We just do not know. Did you have any last minute thoughts that you wanted to say, Michelle?
No, just everybody be praying. We were supposed to have had our girls' night out last week, and as soon as Wendy texted me to get started, my sister called, and my uncle had passed away. He had been sick, and we, like she said, we just never know. And he was older, but he, for the most part, was really pretty healthy, and we just don't know. So let's keep each other in prayer. And if things get hard for us, just know that you've got somebody praying for you, because that means a lot when you're struggling. Or um, I've been in such a hard place before, and a friend or somebody say, I'm praying for you, and it's like, thank you.
It
you
makes all
know
the
it,
difference in the world.
it,
Boy,
it
it
surely
really
does.
does. It really does.
Yeah.
All
So
right. Well, hang on with me. I can talk with you for a few minutes after I end the broadcast. But to everyone else, we will be back with Michelle's husband Merle, and Scripture Unbroken, Brother Ted. He should be joining us next Wednesday for I guess it would be like the guys version of guys night out, but we call it Grace Believers Fellowship, where we are currently studying the book of James. So
yeah, and John B, invite your friends. I mean, I love for men to get involved in, especially women of the Bible studies, because it's good to get a man's perspective of what's going on. So I welcome men in any study that I'm doing about women in the Bible.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that was cute, John. You're like, I don't want to, break protocol, and it's like there's no protocol. I mean, usually
Yeah.
it's mainly women, but I mean, any of our brothers are more than welcome to join us when me and Michelle do girls' night out. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, you guys take care. God bless. Stay safe out there. Try not to be discouraged with, everything that's going on today. Just remember, Jesus Christ is still on the throne. Nobody can steal his crown. Okay. And we have a blessed hope that there is a day coming when all is going to be said and done. It's time for Jesus to return. And that is when the resurrection will happen. And boy, what a day to not have to live in these sinful bodies, these bodies that are decaying and falling apart and dying, and just knowing that forever we will be with the Lord. That's what I'm looking forward to. I am really, really looking forward to that. So,
Me
all right,
too.
everyone, you guys take care. God bless. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.